r/AITA stories. Am I the a-hole? For telling my boyfriend's parents that I'm not stealing their little boy? He is a grown man who can make his own choices and he's chosen our relationship. I have been with Joey for about a year. I feel like his family started to resent me because he was spending more time with me and less at home. This month, I got a great job offer in Colorado. Joey has recently finished his master's degree and is looking for a first full-time job. We decided together to move to Colorado. I'd take the job and he'd look for a job there. For context, home is Connecticut. Both of our families live in Connecticut, but I think he and his family do a lot more in-person things. My family is very busy, and even though we all live in the same area, we mostly keep in touch by phone. It was a big move, but my job offer was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. We decided together that was what we wanted to do. After all, he didn't have a job yet, so this was the perfect time for us to move, when we had that freedom to move without either of us having to make an unwanted career sacrifice. He told his family on his own, and from what he said later, they were upset. They thought it was a bad idea to move cross-country for a girl. They thought it would be hard to live somewhere without family, friends, or a support network, especially if we'd be having kids. I left that whole bag of worms for him to handle, like it's his family. My family was super excited for me and not totally surprised. They were just like, of course our wild child is moving to the mountains. Anyway, I got brought into his family drama a bit at his youngest sister's birthday party. His mom and dad were in the kitchen when I came in to get a water, and his mom told me pretty bluntly that she didn't like the idea of us uprooting our lives and leaving family. I said that my family was happy for me and excited for me, and that I thought it could be an exciting positive thing. I think that irritated her more. She started lecturing me on how important family is, and how it was reckless and selfish what I was doing, pulling her son across the country away from everyone he knows. I asked, "Is that really what you think I'm doing? Pulling him away?" She said she knew it was my idea. And that she knew I knew that by doing it, I'd be stealing him away from family life, from his sisters, and parents and grandparents. I said that I found it pretty condescending that she was acting like I was stealing her little boy. He's a grown man, who can make his own choices. Nobody can steal a man, they go where they damn well please. And my boyfriend made a choice, his own choice, not mine, to choose our relationship and come along with me to Colorado. She found that really rude, and so did my boyfriend's dad. He got very short with me and told me to leave the house rather than speak to his wife like that. I went home. Me reading the title, well, how old is he? Maybe he's young and they're in denial. Me reading he just finished his master's, Lord, he's grown. Woman face palming, NTA, you all gotta live your life. She accosted you because she thinks you're putting ideas into her son's head of what he can or cannot do. He's a grown educated man, he can make choices for himself, and you did the right thing leaving when they asked. It shows that while you may not agree with what they're saying, you respect the boundary they created, just like they should respect your future boundary of any issues you have with your son should be discussed with him, not me. NTA. But if you marry this man, you will pay for that comment in time. In discussions with your in-laws, the correct course is just to shine them on. Oh yes, family is important. Never say that you'll change your mind, but just agree with her premise. NTA, you left it up to your boyfriend to handle his family stuff and didn't get involved until they cornered you in the kitchen. And then you told them that their son was a person, not an object. You just gave them a reality check that they clearly needed. You are not responsible for their emotions, and you didn't get involved until they forced you to. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for shutting my wife out of the blender buying process? Hi everybody. I was hoping for some input from this community that I've seen on all a few times. I'm a 39-year-old man and my wife is a 33-year-old woman. She stays at home and takes care of the house, no children yet, while I work. We're going on 7 years of marriage. Last week, I received a large performance bonus, and I decided I would like to buy myself a nice blender with a small portion of the money. I know it's not the most exciting present to buy yourself, but I cook with a lot of purees and have a shake every morning. I've had 2 blenders die on me in the past 3 years and was determined to make my life easier. Seeing as it was a financial decision, I told my wife as much, and she told me to show her before I ordered it. I researched a bunch of different models, shopped around, checked out safety ratings, and found one I wanted for just under $600. I called my wife to my computer, where I showed her the model that I wanted, and was mainly just confirming that she was fine with it too. She immediately responded by pointing at the suggested items list on the website, which showed a significantly cheaper model. She asked what I thought of that one, and I said it wasn't what I was looking for. Then she said I should get a nice hand mixer to save some money. I kind of chuckled and said that I didn't really want one of those. She responded with, "Well, then how about this blender?" It's $500 cheaper than the one you chose. I reiterated that I was really looking for a good one that I could use for over a decade, but she was completely undeterred. She essentially took over my computer, and then began the race to the bottom of finding the cheapest possible blender, as I stood by repeating the same point about being in the market for a quality product. At one point she was on Alibaba showing me an $11 product that would probably take a month to ship. I was at my limit at this point, so I finally just said I'd think about it. She left the room to start making dinner, and I ordered the $600 one that I wanted. I figured when the blender got to her house I'd explain. 2 days later, it arrived. She asked me how much it had cost. She didn't even recognize it, and I said it was the one I had shown her. She immediately began sulking and said that I didn't care about her opinion, to which I responded I told her I'd think about it. Then she asked when I had ordered it, and I responded about 3 minutes after she left the room. I thought about it in those minutes and made the decision I had put half a dozen hours of research into. She's furious with me now and keeps repeating that I has no financial power in the house. I think she's being completely dramatic, but she thinks I was way out of line. Hope you realize the fight is much bigger than just about the blender. As she says, she's a housewife and she feels like she doesn't have any power in the relationship. I suggest you find a good marriage counselor and do not have kids until you figure out if you can resolve this. Info: is she a housewife due to it being something you both wanted out of marriage, something she primarily wanted, something you primarily wanted, or force of circumstance, layoffs, disability, ect. Info: does she ever get to spend $600 on a personal item like this? I'm not talking gifts that you chose, by the way, but something she picks out herself because she wants it. Regardless of whether $600 is too much to spend on a blender, you shouldn't have told her you'd think about it when you'd already thought about it and decided you were doing this. Nor should she have gotten stuck on cost as the only factor, but maybe if you'd acknowledged her concerns on that while still emphasizing the features you considered absolutely necessary, you could have found a reasonable compromise somewhere in the middle and neither of you would be here right now. As it is, you both obviously need to have a conversation about your joint savings goals, and whether individual windfalls should be treated as individual or household funds, and how you address conflicts over how much is too much to spend on a personal item, and anything else this incident has exposed isn't working about your approach to finances or communication right now. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for quitting my nanny job with little to no notice? I 21F am a part-time living nanny for my aunt and uncle, and I've been raising my niece, technically my cousin, for almost 2 years now. When I first started the job, I was promised $50 per night, for 2 to 3 nights a week. I agreed since I had no job at the time and she really liked how I went about doing my job, so she sorta let me move in rent-free. That's when it all went downhill, because they dropped their baby on me every chance they got and gave me extra tasks to do. This was already bad enough, but then my aunt started skipping payments claiming that money was tight. To make a long story short, she scammed me out of $1,500 and kicked me out of her house when certain problems arose to light. Now she gets away with paying me a measly $50 per session 2 to 3 days. But just last week I was hired at a different job and begin training tomorrow. I told my aunt I was going to be busy and she lost it, saying that she and her husband are going to have to change their schedules and a bunch of other stuff to try and change my mind. I basically told her tough crap. But now I'm started to feel a little bad because I do love my niece. I just hate how much work they put on me. Not paying you is a breach of contract. You have every right to stop working if you are not paid for it. Yes, you are putting them in a difficult position, but they clearly took advantage of you. NTA. They didn't pay as agreed, and now you don't even have free rent as part of your compensation, so it only makes sense that you went and found another job that was legit and would pay you a predictable wage. They should have been more proactive in finding alternate childcare as soon as your aunt made you leave the house. I think it would be wise if you tell them to consider you an emergencies only sitter from now on. NTA. Nanny of 20 years here. That's not how a live-in situation is supposed to work at all. You aren't supposed to pay rent as a live-in, and they need to pay you at least minimum wage. If your new job is also as a nanny, I recommend you search Facebook for some nanny groups. They will give you the support and knowledge you need to negotiate a kick-ass contract with your new employers. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she needs to grow up if she wants to hang out? I, 22F, have a younger sister, 20F. I'll admit I have had some resentment toward her for a long time. Our parents always made it so she was the baby, who had to be protected and cared for by us. Even with a 2-year age gap, I was expected to cater to her like she was much younger than she actually was. If she wanted to hang out with me when I wanted to hang with friends or had plans with friends, I had to let her tag along or stay home with her, and if I brought her out I needed to make sure she was included like one of the friends. But also not pushed too much. And it reached a point where she would always want to hang out, and even if the plans were to do something she couldn't, because she was small too, and some places like our amusement park and trampoline park had stuff she was too small for. I was expected to stay by her and do stuff that accommodated her. As I got older and started working, it was expected I would treat her with my money and would get her something every week. Whether it be some candy, or me paying for her to see a movie or something. My senior year was tough. I ended up with a really bad case of the flu and was out for 6 weeks, and when I went back I had fallen behind a crap ton, and by the time the SOTs came around I was studying super hard. She got a bad grade on an essay right in the middle of them, and my parents got on my case for not taking the time to reassure and comfort her. They kept bugging me to take her out, and so I ended up losing time studying because she was so upset. We needed to do milkshakes, and then she needed to see a movie with me, and then we had to do other stuff on other days, and that was time taken from me. My sister's expectations for me to treat her like a kid have continued now that we're both adults. And I hate spending time with her. She's so damn demanding and needy, and it's hugely aggravating to me. I don't spend a lot of time with her anymore for that very reason. She brought it up recently and told me she misses how things used to be. She told me I should be checking in on her more, helping her out more with stuff now that she's living with roommates versus at home. Something inside me snapped. I told her that it was not my job to treat her like a child. That she might be my younger sister, but she isn't that much younger than me, and if she wants a relationship with me she needs to grow up and stop expecting to be doted on and taken care of by me. She yelled and then ran and told our parents. All three say I'm tough. NTA. You can't be a babysitter for your sibling at this age, and I'm saying this as the younger sister in the family, with a 5 years difference. Your sister is not a child anymore, so your anger is not misdirected, but I think you should talk this through with your parents as well, because they raised her this way, so if it's anyone's fault, it's mostly theirs. Also, what exactly does your sister need help with, when she's living with roommates? Is she friends with them? Does she have any other friends? It's highly possible she might be unable to build friendships if she is as spoiled as your post describes it. NTA. Sorry your parents put you in this position in the first place. Of course she would like things to be like they used to, because she probably still doesn't understand that you didn't spend time with her out of goodness of you heart or because you really wanted to, but you were given no choice by your parents. NTA. It sounds like a case of an arrested development for your sister. Younger siblings generally don't tag along with their older siblings after they reach puberty. But it's obvious that she has some developmental issues. Does she not have any friends of her own? It's a sign that she is a bigger issue than being an annoying little sister. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not playing along when my mother pretended to be dead? So this is going to be weird. One of my 16F earliest memories is a 4-year-old me crying over my mother's 47, seemingly dead body until she jump scared me. I started crying and she consoled me. Ever since then, at least once or twice a month she has done this. I didn't figure it out until I was like 9 or 10, and even after I played along minus the crying, and on seeing me not crying I saw her giving me what I now know as wary glances. Anyways, yesterday she did it again. I had just come home from an extracurricular and was exhausted. I called out to her but no one answered. I then went to check on her and saw her in the same position when she pretends to be dead. I knew nothing bad had happened on seeing her breathing and stealing glances at me, thinking I didn't know. I just closed the bedroom door and went to the kitchen to grab some food. A few minutes later she came down and asked me if I was okay. I said yes. She then asked me why I didn't check on her. I just replied with "I think I'm too old for this game now" in a humorous tone. She didn't seem to see the humor though, because next thing I know she is shouting at me, calling me ungrateful and selfish. She then started crying and said that I didn't care about her anymore, and would be glad if she passed away. Finally she said she was disappointed at how I turned out and left to lock herself in her room, where she has been since, except for the few disappointed/angry glances my way when she came out to get food. Her eyes were red. My mother is a single mom. Dad never bothered to be a part of my life. She has done everything she could for me to have a comfortable lifestyle, and I honestly feel like shit for making her cry. Maybe I should have been more gentle with my approach to the situation or played along. I don't know, but on the other hand I was exhausted and was honestly sick of the game. NTA, and seek support from whatever grown-ups you can trust in your life as soon as possible. Your mom is not well. You have lived with this all your life, so your normal meter is probably very damaged, but this is not normal. The vast majority of parents would never dream of playing such an awful, traumatic prank on a child, and to carry on doing it for years? It's horrifying. You need family therapy if your mom will agree to it, and definitely therapy for yourself to reset your expectations before you set out into the world and have to deal with it. NTA, I'm going to be blunt, it sounds like your mom may have an undiagnosed mental condition of some kind, be it BPD, extreme anxiety, whatever. I am in your mom's position as the sole parent of a 5-year-old, and I would never play dead on her. I have hidden around corners because she loves that, but to pretend to be dead is traumatizing and not cool. I have no idea how to approach it with her, but I think she needs to talk with someone after her reaction to you no longer playing along. NTA. That is a seriously weird game. Maybe this is her way of making a bid for your attention and making sure she knows you care, but it is really, really weird, not to mention traumatizing and terrifying for you when you were a small child. She needs therapy to figure out what her needs are and to learn to communicate them and have them filled more appropriately, and not necessarily by you, either. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my friend's GF because she called me autistic? A couple months ago, one of my close friends, Jake, invited me 22 and some other friends to his apartment for dinner and to meet his girlfriend Leah 26. When we went there, I greeted him and his girlfriend in a normal way, no hug or handshake because of COVID, just a hi, how are you, like everybody else did. We prepared the table together and casually talked about daily stuff. Usually I'm a quiet person, especially with strangers, so I didn't talk much, but I was in the conversation. I asked her where she was from, etc. They prepared pizza for dinner and I don't like olives, so I was taking them out and Leah suddenly said something like, "Sorry, I would have been more careful if Jake told me you didn't like olives. I know how hard it is for people like you." I was very confused and didn't understand what she meant. I thought maybe she thinks I'm allergic to olives. One of my friends asked what she meant and she said autistic people are very sensitive and we should take care of them when we can, and everyone at the table was very confused. There was a moment of silence, then I said I'm not autistic. Then she started talking about how many people are autistic but are not diagnosed because people just label them as not smart or lazy. I said yeah, I'm really not, and someone started talking about something else, so it just kinda stopped there. From this moment we met maybe 15 times and each one of them she said something that implies I'm autistic. If she hugs someone while greeting them, she doesn't hug me and shows it off saying it's okay, you don't have to push yourself for skinship or something weird like that. If I don't laugh at a joke or don't answer a question immediately, she tries explaining it to me. If a friend talks to me rudely as a joke, she gets mad at them. Obviously I'm weirded out, like I told her I don't have autism, but she just can't accept it. She keeps talking about it. Last week we gathered at another friend's house for her birthday. I couldn't buy her a gift because I was busy with school and work. She was opening the gifts and it was time for Jake and Leah's gift. Out of nowhere she said it's actually from the three of us and included me in their gift too. When Jake asked her why did she include me too, she said we shouldn't push her out, society already makes them feel lonely. I just snapped and told her to shut the fuck up. I said she was making me feel stupid and that she sounds really dumb. She told me she was just trying to help me, and I said for the millionth time I don't have autism, and even if I did you shouldn't treat someone with autism like that. After some back and forth she left while crying. Jake apologized and said he was also weirded out but didn't know what to do. AITA? I think I could have handled it better without making her cry, but I just couldn't help myself. NTA, you have told her on multiple occasions that you are not autistic. Why she continues to bring this up is beyond me, but maybe this will finally get your point across. I'm petty, but, if your friends are on board, just all stop talking and stare at her if she says something implying you are autistic again. Then say I'm not autistic, I don't know why you keep bringing this up, while everyone continues to stare. After that people can slowly return to what they were doing before. But 100% you are NTA, and the GF is being super weird. NTA. She has no business trying to diagnose someone out of nowhere, or continuously pushing that diagnosis. And what if you were, professionally diagnosed, autistic? It's insanely rude to constantly point out and highlight the condition, not to mention the fact that she's acting like all autistic people need to be babied and are incapable of functioning on their own or speaking up for themselves. Plus, all people have preferences such as not liking certain foods or not wanting to hug. This makes her sound as though she's implying that those boundaries only deserve respect if the person has a psychological condition. Long story short, she's being performatively tolerant and deserves to be called out. NTA, I wanted to say ESH at first since you could have handled it better, but you told her n times that you do not have autism, yet she kept going, instead of accepting your answer. Petty, but I would have asked her each time she brought this up if she has mental capacity problems, since she does not understand the simple phrase I do not have autism.